Hi, thanks for joining me for the next episode in this little saga. Last video we got the pistons in, the rings on. Let me just turn this around so I can see what I'm showing you. And I've prepared the sump base now. Ready to all go back together. So obviously we've got to fit the oil pickup back in and its new O-ring. And I've cleaned out the sump. This was actually quite reassuring. Had a little bit of sludge in the bottom, but no metal particles, so it's pretty good. So I've cleaned it all up. There's a couple of little spots of rust which I'm going to treat before it goes back into the vehicle. But yeah, I just want to talk about this gasket that's fitted here. Now it says in the manual that you apply a sealant to both surfaces as it's put onto the base of the block. But this is more than just a bit of sealant. This feels like it's actually been professionally bonded down. So I don't know if that's original. It might well be. You can almost get away with refitting it, but I know in past experience if I take a shortcut like that it's not going to turn out well. So I am going, let me just put more light on. I am going to try and get this old seal off and then use a bit of the usual kind of Loctite sealant back on both surfaces and get it all bolted back on. So okay, let's get on and see if I can get that removed. Okay, got everything ready now to refit the sump on, including the oil pickup strainer and stuff, torque wrench, etc, etc. All the little plates have been cleaned up. Now this gasket, I've given up. That's 15 minutes of work and that's all I've managed to lift. I'm trying to do it without damaging it. It is definitely properly bonded. That's not just using a bit of the usual kind of stuff to hold gaskets in place at all. So I'm going to put some new sealant under here, proper gasket stuff. It's never going to leak, so there's no point wasting any more time on that. And we're set up here. So first thing I'm going to do is refit the oil pickup pipe. So I'll set the camera up and we'll get on with it. Well, I've just fitted a new O-ring onto the base of the pickup pipe there. I've also poured some oil in there just to make sure that the oil ways got plenty of oil and ran to the oil pump. I never took the oil pump off and drained it or anything, so it should be okay. But the manual does state if that's been removed, the oil pump, then to ensure you filled it back with oil before you put it back together. I think it just saves valuable time on spinning the engine up to get oil back round into the right places. Okay. I've already looked up the torque setting for these. Last video I stated that I hadn't torqued all the big end shells down, but I've done that. And they're two-stage as well. You do them up to a specific torque and then you go back and do them again to a slightly higher torque. I'm hoping I can fit this in without hitting the camera. Sorry. Yeah, I knew it was going to hit the camera. And that's it. It's always worth doing things up to the specified torque. I mean, when you've been putting things together for long enough, you kind of know if you're at the limit of a bolt. But there's a lot of vibration in the engine, obviously, so it's good to make sure everything's torqued correctly, you don't damage the threads, and you know things aren't going to fall out. Okay, that's a simple job. This is not a very exciting video, I know, but it's also going to be quite a short one because my next video I'm going to be taking the gearbox out of the car. Now I'm just going to make sure there's oil over these journals and things. They've probably got a coating on them anyway, to be honest, but before we put the sump on, so just put a little bit in there. And that's what a lot of it's going to run back out, but it doesn't matter. And I'm also getting this into the base of the pistons, so it's guaranteed that the gudgeon pins have got oil on them as well. Probably a bit of overkill, I know, but hey, do it now, got the time. Okay, so now I'm going to apply sealant all around here, and then we'll put the sump back on. Okay, that's us ready. It's just a very thin film of that sealant. There's no point going too mad. Like I say, you never want to put too much on because you don't want it squeezing off into the engine. Seems to be lining up okay. Now I've also got these bars, spreader bars, that drop into place. And I suppose because it's quite a thin material on here, that does actually then spread the load across. So not a particularly exciting video at all, but it might be of interest if anybody is going to be doing this. There's also these tabs. If you remember in a previous video, they were knocked down hard to hold these plates in place. Probably okay if you're doing the job from underneath the vehicle. It helps hold the whole sump on while you get the bolts in. Now the front bolts use Allen keys. Just so you can see that. Allen keys. Allen head bolts. Hopefully that's going to get down into there. Yeah, they're starting. Nope. The rubber seal will actually catch them. I should be putting all the bolts in, doing them up sort of finger tight, and then I shall then do them again up to the correct torque. There is a torque setting in the book for that. So I'll skip on to the end there. It's going to be a bit of a boring watch otherwise. Okay, so that's the sump all back on, nice and secured. Everything's torqued down. Now I went round several times because obviously it's a rubber gasket and that will compress. So you think you've done it fairly tight, and by the time you've finished diagonaling and doing all the bolts up, you'll find the first ones you've done are just not quite as tight as they were, as obviously because the gasket compresses. So yeah, go around a few times, make sure it's all done up tight. Yeah, that's it. Like I say, not an exciting video. The paintwork on the sump is actually pretty good, which is just well because I think these are really like rocking all shit to get hold of now. There's a couple of rust spots here and there, so that's getting cleaned off, and I will give that a little coat of paint before it goes back into the van. I think the sump cover that fits underneath the van does protect this quite a lot from road salt and things, so that's one good thing about it. Right, I'm going to spin the engine over and I'm going to refit the alternator and the vacuum pump. I will record that because it's just something somebody might want to see how it goes back together. But the next video we're going to be pulling the gearbox out of the van because I need the hoist for that, and obviously I need the hoist to hold the engine while I put the clutch assembly and flywheel back on. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So anyway, let's get this alternator back on. Okay, got the alternator, got the vacuum pump that fits onto the back of the alternator on this little drive here. So I'm just going to hopefully align that on. There we go, that's only a few bolts. I'm fitting the alternator back on now because it's just going to be easier than when the engine's back in place really. because obviously I've got access to everything, so a little bit better. And I wanted to take it off to initially to get it cleaned up and that kind of thing, so it made sense in my head. So there you go, it's quite a simple little job this, really. Maybe I should use ratchet ones for this. Okay, they're only M6s, so no point over talking these up. Okay, that's that ready. I'll turn the camera around so you can just see it go back on the engine. Okay, we are. There's the oil feed to the vacuum pump. That's obviously another feed. They'll go back on once it's all in place. So there we go. It's kind of going through. Just this all loosely for now, because I want to put this fit these pipes back onto here. One's on there. Okay, just got to tap this bolt through and then put the nut on the back, and that's it. Really, kind of quite a simple, quick job, really. Probably wasn't even worth filming, but I'm trying to record. I know some of these videos are going to be really dull and boring, but I'm trying to record every single thing I do on it for future posterity. But if it just helps one person out, usually from me making mistakes, then it saves somebody else the trouble. Then happy days, really. Right, that's just going to be tightened up now. And that's it on the engine for now. Like I say, in my next video we'll be pulling the gearbox out, because obviously got to change the thrust bearing, and I'm planning to put the engine and gearbox back into the van as one unit to save an awful lot of heartache. So stay tuned for that. So okay, what a very exciting video, but like I say, we're recording everything. It might just help somebody. Okay, we'll catch up soon. Bye now.